All right, good evening, everybody. We're going to get started here at 5:30 p.m. So I'll begin our first. We have two meetings tonight. We first have the planning board meeting, and then we have a special council meeting. So in between the two, we'll take a 5-minute break in case I'd expect a number of people will be leaving in between the two meetings. So to begin, I will call to order our planning board meeting of March 13th, 2024 here in the city of Summerside. I would call for a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Councillor Adams, second. Councillor McDougall, all in favor of the agenda as presented, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll proceed with the agenda as is. We begin each one of our meetings with the land acknowledgement, where we acknowledge that the land upon which we gather is the unceded Mi'kmaq territory. Abogway is covered by the historic treaties of peace and friendship. We pay our respects to the indigenous Mi'kmaq people who have occupied this island for over 12,000 years, past, present, and future. At this moment, I ask any member of council to declare a conflict of interest with respect to any item on the agenda. Hearing none, we'll continue to move right along. Also, just take a quick second before I pass it over to our Chair of Planning Board to welcome all of you, members of the public. Thank you for being here with us today in person. Those that are joining online, public engagement and involvement is a really important part of democracy, and it's really always a wonderful scene to see a lot of folks here at City Hall, because it means that you're engaged in your community and engaged with each other. I do also think maybe next year at the budget, we should suggest that we're going to rezone something on Small Avenue, and we'll get a bigger crowd in for our budget our budget presentation, which was earlier this week. The other thing I just mentioned, as you may have noticed if you've been in here recently, the walls are changing in City Hall to reflect a more varied character throughout our history. The pictures will change over time, and there are these just went up today, so if I'm not looking directly at you, sometimes I'm distracted by the new art on the wall. And if you do look, the second from my right at the back is the pothole protest. And you can see the residents of Summerside years long ago fishing in potholes on Water Street, and so please don't get any ideas. With that, I will hand it over to our Chair of Planning Board, Councillor Doiron.
I usually open with a joke, but I can't beat any of those tonight. MLA DeRoche is here for a second meeting in the row, so welcome. First item this evening, recommendation for rezoning for 109 Small Avenue. I will get right into it. This is the second of 3 meetings on this application. This will be when we go through the report. And then the next meeting, which will be on March 18th at 6:30. That's our regularly scheduled monthly council meeting. That's when all of council will decide on this application. So I'll begin with the supporting explanation. The purpose of the zoning amendment is to allow an apartment building in the proposed R4 zone. Background: an application was received from JMK Fish Mart Inc., Bruce Palmer, property owner, for PID number 497735 to amend the city zoning bylaw from medium density residential R3 zone to high density residential R4 zone. A public meeting was held on March 5th, 2024, and council gave first reading on the same date. Under section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, when planning board reviews a zoning bylaw amendment, it has to consider the following general criteria as applicable. A, conformity with all requirements of this bylaw. Staff comment: any proposed development can or will conform to the R4 development standards. And the standards are noted below. I can read those, or we can table it as they're freely available in our zoning bylaw documents. It just says for each row house and townhouse dwelling unit, the standards shall apply for apartment buildings. So it just lays out the standards for lot area, lot depth, frontage, side yard allowances, and that sort of thing for the R4 zone. So conformity with the official plan. The application conforms to the official plan, future land use plan Schedule B of the official plan, as the subject properties are designated as residential land use on the future land use plan. That is Schedule B of the official plan. The application must conform to the official plan text in Schedule A as per council's policies set out in section 5.22 of the official plan text, which I will read below. The proposed amendments have no impact on the Parks and Green Space Plan. So section 5.2.2, location of high-density housing. Council intentions about locating high-density housing are important to residents concerned about potential location of row houses and apartment buildings into their predominantly low-density neighborhoods. To help allay these concerns, Council lays out specific policies below on where they may allow future high-density housing, some of which elaborate on their foregoing policies for special planning and development areas. So the location criteria include, for locating high-density housing, include the desirability of infilling properties which are already partly developed for higher density housing, the desirability of locating high-density housing close to jobs, community facilities and services, and of promoting pedestrian access, opportunities for maximizing the number of opportunities for scenic views through higher density and taller residential buildings. Covered there on my screen, with protection of adequate view planes. Benefits of locating higher density housing in difficult to service areas so that they can help distribute expensive development costs among more users. Opportunities for innovative mixes of higher density housing with other residential development in CDAs. Opportunities for recycling older non-heritage residential properties with higher density development. Opportunities for apartments in residential / commercial use buildings, and avoidance of negative economic and physical impacts on surrounding land uses, whether existing or proposed. Council's objective is to encourage high-density housing in specific areas, and the following are Council's statements of policy. To promote high-density housing on properties already partly developed for higher density housing, to consider applications for high-density housing in the following situations. A mix of housing types in CDAs, which is commercial development areas? Comprehensive development areas. Okay, as if people weren't confused enough here this evening. Areas presently occupied by conforming mobile home parks. Rezonings in areas presently designated for medium-density R3 zone residential use. Areas immediately north of the downtown, defined as Notre Dame Street to the north, Granville Street to the east, Heather Moyse Drive to the south, and Duke Street to the west, subject to no harmful impacts on local heritage housing, and within residential / commercial buildings. Downtown D zone, urban core area, all districts. City arterial or collector roads as referenced in section 7.2 and figure 7-1. Consider applications for high-density housing in other areas with careful consideration of Council's location criteria, as I listed above. And continuing on with the criteria, we get into C, suitability of the site for the proposed development. Staff comment. The site is suitable for high-density residential land use. The property is approximately 0.46 acres. Streets and municipal services in the area are available to make connections for a proposed development. D, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses. Staff comment, the existing land uses surrounding the property are designated as residential land uses. The projected land uses are residential land uses as well. The proposed development is compatible with both existing and projected land use. E, any comments from residents or other interested persons? Staff comment on a public meeting was held on March 5th, 2024. The public meeting notice was advertised in the February 17th edition of The Guardian. 23 letters were mailed to 17 property owners. The applicant provided concept building plans for a potential 8-unit apartment building. No concept plan was presented for this site. However, a site plan would be required prior to any development. A letter was received from Charles Brown and read into the record at the public meeting. The letter is included in this report, as well as a couple others that have come in since. A resident, 111 Small Avenue, was concerned about the potential of noise from an apartment building development and how the proposed development would impact the quiet neighborhood. Chris Carey, 113 Small Avenue, stated he was curious as to how this development would be. Is that Chris Perry? Or it is Carey? It is Kerry, okay. Stated he was curious as to how this development would be permitted on this lot, as he was told he couldn't build a single-family dwelling on his lot in 2008. Kurt Howard, 735 Flamingo Drive, spoke regarding concerns of the land being considered for rezoning, the impacts an apartment building would have on the traffic on Small Avenue, and parking concerns for the building during and after construction. Councillor Adams raised concerns regarding the impacts of this development on police and fire safety for Small Avenue and the subdivision as a whole. Currently, there are no parking restrictions on Small Avenue aside from overnight winter parking restrictions. Concerns or matters raised from the public meeting have been addressed throughout this report. There were other requests from council not relative to the criteria considerations that have been attached to this report as well, and I will mention those near the end. F, adequacy of existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical services, city parking and parklands for accommodating the development and any projected infrastructure requirements. Staff comment, the city's water supply in this area is adequate for the zoning change, and the sewage treatment plant can handle the loading. New water and sewer infrastructure will be required to be installed for this new build at the developer's cost. The development has access on Small Avenue. Small Avenue is a local street with approximate AADT, anticipated annual daily automobile trips, basically, of 1,560 vehicles per day. This new development, R4, will add approximately 2 times 4 times 1.5, which equals 12 at 6 trips per day for a total of 72 vehicles per day. So that is just estimating the number of vehicles per unit and how they would add to that vehicles per day. The existing R3 zone could accommodate a maximum of 4-unit apartment building, and that works out to 6 at 6 trips per day, so that's 36 vehicles per day. So there would be an approximate increase in vehicles per day of 36, which the street can easily handle at its existing average daily vehicle count, we'll call it, of 1,560. Small Avenue has a ditched storm system, which will handle the lot's storm drainage. The developer will be required to supply a site drainage plan at the time of permitting. Adequate power is available for proposed density increase. G, impacts from the development on pedestrian or vehicular access and safety and on public safety generally. Staff comment, the lot has an existing access on Small Avenue. Any changes to the existing access will be subject to city approval and at the developer's cost. The lot has an access to the city sidewalk on Water Street East by means of the sidewalk south of the trail on Small Avenue. Police services were consulted after reviewing all traffic complaints in the area for the past year. Police services have determined this rezoning would not raise any traffic safety concerns from a police perspective. City fire services were also consulted. Fire services doesn't have any issues with the rezoning, although it is a high traffic area. The proposed second entrance / exit to this area will alleviate any concerns moving forward. H, compatibility of the development with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources. Staff comment, not applicable. I, impacts on city finances and budgets. Staff comment, not applicable. J, other matters as specified in this bylaw, not applicable. And K, other matters as considered relevant. Staff comment, staff have noted that concept plans can be perceived as the application when in fact the application is a zoning amendment. The applicant can propose any use in the proposed zone, and development layouts or designs are subject to change. The development layout, such as the access, building locations, etc., is reviewed upon submission of a building and/or development permit. City staff have not reviewed any specific development for the subject property. Parking requirements for an apartment building in the proposed R4 zone is 1 parking space per unit. Staff have no record of inquiries regarding the potential of placing a single-family dwelling on the property at 113 Small Avenue. That was Chris Perry in the R3 zone. Any development may be considered in the R3 zone, subject to meeting the development standards and required city approvals / permits. So just to clear up my own confusion just reading this. Was there in fact 2 Chris's? Or is one of them, the Perry should be a Carrie? Okay. That's what I thought, but that's where I got the Perry from, so, okay. So I'll just quickly go to a couple of councillor requests that came in during that meeting. Deputy Mayor Snow had a request. He was wondering how many lots in this particular R3 section. There are 53 lots in this R3 section of the city between the Confederation Trail and Woodridge Park. There's a mix of housing forms, including mobile homes, mini homes, manufactured homes, and on-site construction homes. I'll have to read this screen now because mine's all muffled. And I had a request, just wanted to, the difference between the definition of a townhouse, row house, and apartment building. So apartment building means a building containing more than 2 dwelling units, except a row house and townhouse as defined in this bylaw. So a row house means a building that is divided into 3 or more vertically adjacent joined dwelling units, separated by a vertical wall, with each unit being constructed directly on grade. Row houses do not require individual public utilities for each unit, street frontage, and cannot be subdivided. Townhouse means a building that is divided into 3 or more vertically adjacent dwelling units, separated by a vertical concrete or masonry firewall, with each unit being constructed directly on grade. Townhouses require individual public utilities and street frontage for each dwelling unit and can be further subdivided as per section 8.15. Okay, so the recommendation, city staff supports the application from JMK Fishmart Inc., Bruce Palmer, for PID number 497735 to amend the city zoning bylaw from medium-density residential R3 zone to high-density residential R4 zone, be recommended to be approved by council. As per section 5.10, part B3 of the zoning bylaw, the planning board shall make a recommendation to council on this application before it is approved or denied. And the planning board recommendation, whether carried or defeated, will still be brought forward to council for a final decision.
Chair, can you,
Councillor Adams.
when you had said what was brought back there for your question, I had a question brought back about what's the current zoning R4 in that area?
Councillor Adams request the map of the current R4 zone
Yeah.
land, which is, yeah.
Okay, and where is small, you can point to, yep. Right. So there's small, and all back behind it is already zoned R4? Is that right, Linda? Is that what I'm? I just want everybody to, because I had been asked several times about what's currently in the area, so. Right. Yes, right, it's, yeah, right where Flamingo goes, and then the trail, yeah, that one right there where the little hand is. So all back, so anything in yellow is currently zoned R4. Right, okay. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. So I guess, so as a member of planning board, I'm prepared to move the recommendation to be approved by council. I think it's a reasonable application and it passes all the criteria. I see no reason as a planning board member to oppose it. That being said, I think we still have information to weigh as councillors leading up to the actual decision. I did and I do still share the concern with many residents about the congestion, especially during the construction. However, I realize that on-street parking is allowed, so I would hope that if this ends up being approved, that, you know, there would be a conversation with the developer and contractor about just being considerate there. I also want to just reiterate that the second entrance exit is coming within the next number of months. So I also want to acknowledge that we did receive a petition with 145 signatures and several letters. So input from residents is a criteria that we must consider. So I will certainly be doing that leading up to March 18th. But in the meantime, in order to move this forward, which we must do regardless. I'll move that this be recommended to be approved by council, and I'll ask for a seconder eventually, but we can, if there's anybody that wants to say anything in the meantime, we can discuss.
Chair, I just asked the CAO what we should do about the letters that came in, and he said maybe just, it was indicated that letters were received. So just to make sure that they do get included and make sure, because I was forwarding them on to everybody, staff and council. So just letters of opposition from residents in the area that will be directly impacted by this proposal. Ones I received were Judy McKinnon, Scott and Gloria Tallman, Arlene Murphy, Julia and Stuart Metzger, and Craig Mugridge. So those are ones that I received, so I just want to make sure for the record that
Yep.
all those are on file.
And the petition, since it's a physical copy that was brought in, we'll ask that it be scanned and sent around to everybody so everyone can see each individual line and the letter at the top, so everyone will be able to see that as well.
Can I ask just another question?
Okay.
So when it said I brought up about the issues in the area, I don't think it quite got everything that I had mentioned. The no sidewalks, the poor shoulder, the no road markings, the no playground, the room for the site when the vehicles, when this proposed site would be being built. And it did follow up with police services. However, I do take exception to that for the people in the area that call me and call police services multiple times about the issues up there. So I just wanted to make sure that those things are noted, that they were brought forward as concerns from the residents, because I don't think it portrayed it quite strongly enough in the minutes
Okay.
from.
And those, of course, are all things that we are obligated to consider, and we will, and we always do, so. Anyone else?
Okay.
Decisions made on March 18th at 6:30.
We don't make a decision, we don't have any say.
I'm just going to
What you said is going through.
excuse me, sir. Yep, but if we're in the middle of a meeting, if you want to address council, you can stand up and ask to do that. At this point in time, council is going to continue to provide their comments, and then we'll continue down the path. But it's really important that we don't have people calling from the gallery and engaging in a back and forth. Council still has to speak, and then if we need further discussion, we can ask to address council again to the planning board, because today is a planning board meeting, of which there are 3 councillors and myself that sit on planning board. This then moves, regardless of the planning board's recommendation in favor or not in favor, it will move to council again. So I just want to make sure sometimes we don't want to get into a back and forth. Let's let the process fill out, and then if people have concerns, then we can address them then.
Yep. And I can only speak for myself, but as chair of planning board and as a planning board member, I have, looked at the criteria, and staff have looked at the criteria, and staff have recommended, and typically, as a planning board member, I, side with staff because it's the same criteria that we must consider. That being said, there's been many cases where when it went to council, I've voted against it because, for those reasons. So just because a member of planning board recommends it to be approved by council doesn't mean that that day comes and things don't change. Information comes in, conversations happen with residents or staff or whoever. And so to assume that planning board and council as a whole makes a decision before decision night is just not true, because there's precedent and minutes and YouTube videos of exactly the opposite.
So what you're doing at this time as chair is you're moving it forward to council for all of
I'm
council
recommending
to
that
vote.
it be
Yes.
approved by council based on the criteria and based on the fact that it has staff support. And but as a full council and as a council member, I have not made my decision. And there is, again, like I said, many instances where different decisions were made in different meetings. So and that's what we do. So.
Thank you, and I apologize, I wasn't at the last meeting, but by the amount of people that are here. I know that it's a contentious issue. I did take a drive around there the last couple of days. Linda, just for between the R3 medium density and the high density that they're asking for, what allows them, what can they do in the high density that they couldn't do in the R3 medium density?
That information was provided in the monthly meeting package. I don't have it in front of me tonight.
Okay, I have some stuff here, but they're planning on building an 8-unit.
That's the plan they submitted.
You could
It's a
build an 8.
concept plan.
Yeah, but you could build an 8-unit in an R3.
I have the information, what you can, permitted uses, if you want me to run through it.
Yeah, could you, please?
So R3 permitted uses, single-family dwelling, semi-detached dwellings, duplex dwellings, accessory buildings, assisted living, manufactured home, mobile home lawfully existing prior to 1999. Under discretionary use for R3, child care facility, group home, boarding house, nursing care facility, social services agency, tourism establishment, townhouses, 8 units per building maximum, row houses, 8 units per building maximum, apartments, 4 units maximum, and rooming house. So that's all under R3,
Medium density.
right? What it's
Okay.
currently zoned,
Yeah.
but the later was discretionary use, which would have to have council approval.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I just, were we asked to check with the police to see, I see there's a comment in there about the police were asked if it would do if there would be any concerns. Were we asked to look at that, or did we just do that?
That was requested at the meeting.
Requested at the meeting?
Both police and fire services.
Okay.
I believe Councillor Adams asked that.
Oh, okay, thank you, because that's not normal that we do that unless requested. Yeah, I have issues with it, and I just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the residents in the gallery, I don't know if this will help or not. It's not a case that you won't be heard, because the information that we've received is in all of our package of information, and as pointed out by the chair and the mayor, that it's very important that your comments have come in, and we read all of that. I think for council, what we have to follow is what is established through IRAC. There has to be 3 meetings. There has to be all of that information come forth. So I know I heard a few comments where people might feel like you're not being heard or whatever, but we're trying to listen to everything that comes in the package, and we're trying to follow everything through the rulings of IRAC that we have to follow as law. So that's why we're following the process. I hope that explains it.
And just to add on that, if we don't follow the process, that opens up for appeal. So if things end up going one way and somebody realizes that something wasn't done quite right, they can apply for an appeal and be quite successful. So that's why we have to follow it very, very strictly. Deputy Mayor Snow.
So, just to build on what Councillor McDougall was asking, what's being proposed here is an 8-unit apartment building, correct? And not a row house, townhouse. What's being proposed and does not fall under discretionary use for R3.
The individual asked for an 8-unit apartment building, and that you cannot achieve that under the current zoning.
Current, okay. What is the maximum that possibly could be built there? Because when I read through, I just took note of a few things that were commented in the, so under other matters is considered relevant, staff have noted the concept plans can be perceived as an application, which as a councillor I realize, but that 8 units could turn into possibly how many units?
we'd have to calculate the area, and again, it's at the,
So then,
depend upon the size of their building, the size of the units.
so then how
and
can
the-
we comment on the trips per day, vehicles per day? Or how can we, I worry, and this is a concern I've had through any of our rezonings, is we come in and we have a developer who maybe in good intentions come and proposes something, and then it doesn't happen, and it gets pushed down the road, and then we have an R4 lot that can be built up to, whatever, however many number of units, yet we're zoning based on information coming back from staff, in good intentions, I'm 100% sure, but in fact, it could possibly not be accurate at all, if it's a larger building built, if it's a,
That's correct, yep, he can build whatever in that R4 zone that is permitted.
so my question would be, should we not, during this process, be taking into account, we would know the lot size leading into any rezoning? Should we not be, in fact, taking into account the maximum amount of traffic that we could possibly see on that road? Based on the size of the lot, based on what could be possibly built in an R4 as opposed to just what's being proposed? Because then we say later in the same document that what's being proposed is possibly not accurate, it's gonna be zoned R4. And I know there's a lot of questions there, and I'm not pushing back on you so much, it's just more of a, how we go through this process.
And again, I guess the R4 standards are there. If the building is, we do make some assumptions, but we, again, are the units 3,000 square feet, or are they 500 square feet, or, so that all depends on how many units are in there, in the building.
But based on square footage of a lot, or the lot size,
Yep.
we would know the maximum number of units, because there's a minimum size of a unit, correct? You can build this
So-
unit any size you want?
You can build a unit, yeah, as far as I know, you can,
Okay.
yeah. And so the way we would base it, it's based on the size of the lot.
Yeah.
But your square footage, that's what it caps, it doesn't cap units.
I guess my question is, could we in theory go from 8 units being proposed to 24 units? Could it go to 36 units? I know it's not a huge lot, I've been out there too, but I'm just,
So we have, I guess we could use another example nearby. There is another building that's 24 unit that's on a 1 acre lot,
and this
is on Schooner Street.
and the size of this lot was,
.046.
yeah.
But it's already in an R4.
Yeah, okay. Okay, the next question I have would be regarding, where are we at here? Location criteria. We have, based on that, when I read through our location criteria for R4, I don't know if this checks any of those boxes. When I read through what we have listed as criteria. So I'll just leave that as for other councillors to look at, because when we were reading through there, I don't know if it actually checks any of those boxes for the criteria that we would recommend locating R4s. I looked through it and I X'd off every one as it doesn't fit any of the criteria that we're looking for, so. Yeah, I guess I'll just leave those out there as comments more than anything.
Just one more question. Linda, just one more. Is there, there's no we couldn't do a discretionary use on the R3?
Discretionary use in the R3 allows 4 apartment units as a max.
Oh, 4 as a max. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair? Thank you, Linda. Once again, we're back into trying to get this back to as simple a starting point as possible. This is a land use question. We often have, at times, a building shown to us, potentially, or not shown to us, which Councillor Snow was speaking to. But ultimately, what we have to do here at Planning Board, and I'm a member of Planning Board, is look at the land use, irrespective of what any potential building may be or may not be. And so we have a series of criteria, and I've gone through it, and I'm just going to speak to how I've at least arrived at my decision as a member of Planning Board, and I will be voting against the recommendation. And I'll get there, how I get to that in a second. Overall, we always have to start from the fact that the reality is that it is no secret that we need more housing in our community for the people that live here. We need more housing so that we can reduce the cost of housing so it become more attainable for more people. And we need more housing for people who have none and those who are looking for housing that is more appropriate for them. This council has done excellent work over the course of the last year on the policy side, but we still have a long way to go. We are in the process of initiating our official plan review, which is basically this document that gives us direction on questions like this, and our zoning bylaws that affect our land use decisions. This particular issue of R3 land use to R4 is one that has come up before this council before, and we have been pressed with some of those challenges. And to sort of make it as simple as possible, we have R1, R2, and R3 that go up to what we've been talking about, single-family homes, duplexes, and then we have R4, which is all other apartment buildings and buildings. So we go from having, as of right, 2 units to, as of right, 100 units. And we are struggling with needing to find some better middle ground, so we are working on that. But we also need to do this in a smart way. We can't simply be rezoning everything to R4, or then what is the purpose of having any zones whatsoever? Although certainly that has been a discussion that has been brought up as well in the past. So when I go through this, we have a section 5.7 of our official plan lists out the criteria, and they were listed and put up on the screen earlier today as A to K, I think. The criteria A, C, D, and then F through K, I have no issue with, and I certainly agree with the comments made by staff on issues respecting community safety. I'm going to defer to our police department on access for emergency vehicles. I'm going to defer to our fire services. As a side note, this is one of the reasons why the east-west corridor is so important, because it connects this community, your community, at two ends, because right now that is certainly a concern that we have when we look at the city as a whole, that there are neighborhoods like yours that if there is an incident really at 109 Small, there are hundreds of people who are trapped. And that is one of the main drivers, not just traffic, not just housing, but building communities smartly and making sure that you are protected in times of difficulty. There are two, though, that I wanted to jump out from those criteria. The first is the public comments, E. I read through all the public comments. I was here, obviously, at the last meeting and listened to those. I have the notes of what was said here, a character of the neighborhood, desire not to have mix of R3 and R4, the road width, construction, parking, traffic. And then there are always a number of other issues like traffic and safety and sidewalks that aren't just particular to this development. Lighting was one of them. Again, those are important, valid concerns and things that sometimes are helpful through this process, come out to all of us at council, and we get a better understanding of. Water Street, access to Water Street, I had noted down here as well. Some of those I certainly give some more consideration to, things, anything that pertains to safety or sidewalks, pedestrian access is really, really important. Things like don't want to live near R4, I don't take, I'm not as interested in that. I think the reality is that we all have to be able to live together, and just because we may not like the form of the building, the function and the people who are in it is what is really important. And then I go to section 5.22, which is incredibly marked up because we have gone through this a number of times in our official plan. And that is what Deputy Mayor Snow referred to as the location criteria for high-density housing. So on the following page, we have a policy objective here at the City of Summerside to encourage high-density housing in specific areas. That is in areas that is already partly developed for high-density housing, which I don't see this as being one. And then underneath that, we can consider applications, or should consider applications, for high-density housing in a variety of other places. A mix of housing types in CDAs, areas presently occupied by conforming mobile home parks, rezonings in areas presently designated for medium-density R3 zones. So to me, I think we need to consider this, and we need to look at it entirely. When we do that, though, we are then directed back to look at the location criteria. And they are listed on page 88 of our official plan, and they were listed, put up on the board there. And they were read, and I spent some time with them today because I think they are what really ultimately guides my decision-making at this point. And I don't get a vote on this at council, so, I'd echo Deputy Mayor Snow's comments. I went through the location criteria, of which there are 6, 7, 8, of which there are 8. Are there 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're not numbered, sorry. 6, 7, 8. There are 8. One of them, I have a yes beside, which was opportunities for recycling older residential properties with higher density development. I also visited the site earlier today. But under none of the others did I see it would meet the threshold. The desirability of infilling properties, this isn't really an infill situation, this is a single lot. Locating high-density housing close to jobs, community facilities and services, and promoting pedestrian access. The pedestrian access I don't really have a comment on. Close to jobs and community facilities, it's a kilometer if you measure it out, walk to the closest community facilities, and from the job perspective there are a couple of motels, but again you're a kilometer and a half really to those jobs. There is nothing, I guess, if you walk to Water Street and head east. So I don't see it as other areas where we have proceeded with high density rezoning, which are closer to major employment centers. And it doesn't have to, you know, this could be a no, but the others could be a yes, and that could guide us in that direction. Opportunities for maximizing scenic plains, I don't see that as relevant here. And then there are a couple that are just simply not relevant for our consideration. So when I look at it as a whole, I think that the existing land use zone for that property, being R3, is appropriate. I think that it doesn't, while we need to have, as I said, missing middle and more gentle density in our communities, there is an opportunity for the property owner to make a discretionary use application for row houses or townhouses or 4 units apartment, which then these criteria, we would have different criteria, it wouldn't be these criteria that would be applying. And I see the R4 not meeting those location criteria set out there, and so that's why I'll be voting against the recommendation, although as Chair Doiron said, this goes forward to council, and council ultimately will have a vote, and mayor only votes in the case of a tie. So thank you, Chair.
I can never tell. If your light's on, just fling it up there. So, thank you, Your Worship. And it's interesting, as I mentioned before, you know, things change between now and decision night. We take into account not only the input from residents, but I find sometimes within our own group, when we're making points, some of those things can also affect, you know, things that we haven't considered before. So with all of the points that the mayor just made, that's more input that I hadn't considered some of the things that he had said in the way that he had said it. So different things like that can also go into how we make our decisions. So that's why it's so important that we have these meetings when we have them, and the number of meetings that we must have. So with that being said, I guess I will continue on. Either way, this has to go to council, and that will be on March 18th at our regularly scheduled meeting at 6:30. So once again, I'll just read the recommendation, and then we'll take a vote of planning board, and whether it's defeated or approved to go to council from the planning board. Either way, it goes to council, with or without endorsement. So planning board recommendation, the application from JMK Fishmart Inc., Bruce Palmer, for PID number 497735, to amend the city zoning bylaw from medium-density residential R3 zone to high-density residential R4 zone, bears the recommendation of the planning board. I will move it forward, and I'll ask for a seconder from planning board. Councillor Morrison. Members of planning board only, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 2 for, 2 against. So it will go to council on March 18th without the endorsement of planning board when it's a tie. Is that correct? When it's not majority.
Yeah, to be noted that it was.
So this will arrive at the March 18th council meeting without the endorsement from planning board, and council will make a decision at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and certainly echo your comments that we have lots of conversations and back and forth, and we have had now a few times where planning board has been split 2-2, and there are certainly no camps, because it always seems to be different splits. But thank you for carrying that forward. The next item, I believe, is also yours.
And if anybody wanted to stay. If not, and appreciate the patience from everyone, especially those of you that brought children along. Thanks for holding them back there for us. So we do have another item on the agenda, so you're free to stay, or if you're here for the public meeting where the public input came in was that first meeting. And so we gathered that, but you're still free to, I mean, by all means, email your councillors and email your mayor, email us all. The time for you to contact us is certainly not over, but the public input portion of the public meeting was the first one, and the reason we do that is because those people that can't attend here, they're home watching. It's on the agenda, as you know, the public is invited to speak. So that's how everybody knows.
Even though he's not giving new information since that first meeting, we're still not public.
New information or new concerns?
I'm gonna interrupt again, because again, we are on the record, so just for clarity, you may disagree with the purpose, how the process works, but the first meeting is the opportunity where the initial information is presented, comments are collected from council. This is a planning board meeting where planning board reviews the comments from members of the public as well as the recommendations for staff, and then either recommends in favor or against as the application then moves to council. When it comes back to council, at any council meeting, you can make a request of the chair, and I would be the chair, to speak. I have done that before, and I believe council has to vote on whether or not that is appropriate, and council has in the past frequently done that, and then we just put time constraints around that. Okay? And you, like, as Councillor Doiron said, you can contact your city councillor anytime as well.
And anything that's sent to me, any phone calls that come in, text, messages, emails, I circulate that to staff and all of council. So it just doesn't come to me. I make sure that.
Didn't know it was the first meeting. So, I got an awful surprise when I had someone come to the door and tell us this is what's coming.
Yeah, it's gonna
That's
be.
only 4 or 5 days ago.
And just for the record, members of the public are asking about notice to meetings. Again, we follow criteria for providing the notice, and this is certainly going to be something that's going to be even more and more challenging as we have less and less community newspaper opportunities where these things are published. So it's important to be able to share them and to be able to be part of the process.
Okay, next item is zoning amendment application. Once again, this one is for 90 MacDonald Crescent. The purpose of the zoning amendment is to allow a semi-detached dwelling in the proposed R2 zone. Background and application was received from Kenneth and Sheila Kenny for PID number 99994 to amend the city zoning bylaw from single-family residential R1 zone to low-density mixed residential R2 zone. Public meeting was held on March 5th, 2024, and council gave first reading on the same date. Report under section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw. When planning board reviews a zoning bylaw amendment, it has to consider the following general criteria as applicable. A, conformity with all requirements of this bylaw. Staff comment, the current R1 zone allows 2 units by means of a single-family dwelling with an accessory suite. Any proposed development can or will conform to the R2 development standards as noted below. And again, those are the development standards that are common and published within our zoning bylaw. B, conformity with the official plan. Staff comment, the application conforms to the official plan. Schedule B of the official plan, as the subject properties are designated as residential land use on the future land use plan. The application conforms to the official plan text, Schedule A, Table 5.2, where single-family, semi-detached, and duplexes are identified as low-density land uses. The proposed amendments have no impact on the Parks and Green Space Plan. C, suitability of the site for the proposed development. Staff comment, the site is suitable for low-density residential land use. Streets and municipal services in the area are available to make connections for a proposed development. Costs associated with the required servicing for the additional unit will be the responsibility of the property owner. D, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses. Staff comment, the existing land uses surrounding the property are designated as residential land uses. The projected land uses are residential land uses as well. The proposed development is compatible with both existing and projected land use. E, any comments from residents or other interested persons? Staff comment, a public meeting was held on March 5th, 2024. The public meeting notice was advertised in the February 17th edition of The Guardian. 31 letters were mailed to 19 property owners. Dean Sharkey, 80 MacDonald Crescent, or Court? Crescent. Questioned as whether or not the lot would meet city lot size for a semi-detached dwelling. The applicant provided an overview of the proposed development and intent for the lands being considered for rezoning. No concept plan was presented for the site. Concerns or matters raised from the public meeting have been addressed throughout this report. F, adequacy of existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical services, city parking and parklands for accommodating the development and any projected infrastructure requirements. Staff comment, the city's water supply in the area is adequate for the zoning change and the sewage treatment plant can handle the loading. New water and sewer infrastructure will be required to be installed for this new build at the developer's cost. The existing street will have no problem with the extra traffic as this is an existing lot. The existing ditch system will handle the drainage. Adequate power is available for proposed density increase. G, impacts from the development on pedestrian or vehicular access and safety and on public safety generally. Staff comment, this development will require a new access, cost shared with the city for a standard 3-meter wide asphalt access. Cost to the developer, $500. If the asphalt width is wider than the standard 3-meter width, the developers will be responsible for the additional cost. The closest sidewalk to this development is on McGee Drive to South Drive. H, compatibility of the development with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources. Staff comment, not applicable. I, impacts on city finances and budgets. Staff comment, access cost $2,500 approximately, less the developer's $500. J, other matters as specified in this bylaw. There are none. And K, other matters as considered relevant. Staff comment, the proposed R2 development standards for a semi-detached dwelling is a lot frontage of 26 meters, 3 meters per side, and a lot depth of 30 meters. Based on the city's mapping data, the existing lot measures 27 meters wide and 37.1 meters deep. Thus, it appears the existing lot would meet the development standards. Recommendation, city staff supports this application from Kenneth and Sheila Kenny for PID number 99994 to amend the city zoning bylaw from single-family residential R1 zone to low-density mixed residential R2 zone, be recommended to be approved by council. As per section 5.10, part B3 of the zoning bylaw, the planning board shall make a recommendation to council on this application before it is approved or denied. Planning board recommendation, whether carried or defeated, will be brought forward for council for a final decision. Planning board recommendation, the application from Kenneth and Sheila Kenny for PID number 99994 to amend the city zoning bylaw from single-family residential R1 zone to low-density mixed residential R2 zone bears the recommendation of the planning board, moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Snow. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I will, go ahead, Councillor Google.
Yeah, again, I wasn't at this meeting, and this is in Ward 1, and I know Mr. Sharkey's here this evening. Did you get your question answered, Dean, on the size of the lot? Linda, I think that's answered on the last part of it there, isn't it?
I think Mr. Sharkey had a question regarding the side yards. Was that correct, Dean? And how far this would be from your property line?
I just wanna know how far it's gotta be from the property line when you build it.
It has to be 2 meters here, shown here, 2 meters or 6.5 feet from the
Six,
property
yeah.
line.
Okay.
6.5 feet. And that's no matter whether it's a duplex or a single-family home, that still has to be come in with those, yeah. I think that was that all you had, Dean? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Linda.
Okay, if no one else, we'll just recall for the planning board vote. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Snow. All in favor on the planning board, say aye. Aye. And opposed? None. So that will go to council on March 18th. And that is everything, Your Worship, from planning board.
Thank you, Councillor Doiron, Chair, Planning Board. I believe with that, we will adjourn our Planning Board meeting of March 13th, 2024. And if it's okay, we'll take maybe 1 minute, and then we will continue with our special council meeting as soon as possible. Maybe 2 minutes, we'll start at 6:30. All right, we'll get going here because we've got just one item on this meeting. So I'll call to order the special council meeting of March 13th, 2024 here in the City of Summerside. Call for a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Councillor Cameron, second. Councillor Snow, all in favor of the agenda as presented, please say aye. Any opposed? We'll carry forward with the agenda. This is the opportunity for any member of council to declare a conflict of interest with respect to the one item on the agenda for this evening. Hearing none, we will move on to item 4. At this point, I'll hand it over again to the chair of Planning Board, Councillor Doiron. Councillor?
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Official plan and zoning amendment application. This one is for 320 Pope Road. Background, the City of Summerside has received an application from 101359 PEI Inc. for a portion of PID number 70896 to amend the city official plan land use from residential land use to commercial land use, and to amend the zoning bylaw from low-density mixed residential R2 zone to service commercial C2 zone. The purpose of the zoning amendment is to allow expansion of an existing commercial business in the proposed C2 zone. And I don't even think it's mentioned there, but the business is Summerside Butcher Shop. Great sales this week, by the way. The application was advertised in the February 27th and February 28th edition of The Guardian, and letters were mailed to property owners within 60 meters or 200 feet of the subject properties. Explanation of the process. So in order to process a zoning bylaw amendment, the following steps are required. Step 1, the zoning bylaw amendment is read a first time and declared as read at a first council meeting. Step 2, the zoning bylaw amendment is referred to Planning Board for review and recommendation, and those two steps are taking place this evening. Step 3, Planning Board reviews the application and prepares a recommendation to Council. And that will take place at the next meeting of the Planning Board. Do we know when that is yet? Or that'll just be at our regular April? The Step 3, the Planning Board meeting. Yeah, our next Planning Board meeting will be at.
Planning board would be before the monthly meeting on Monday, the 18th, and then,
Oh, we heard one then.
yeah,
Okay.
and April 2nd during our.
Okay, pardon me. Okay, so the Planning Board will review this on March 18th. So that's just coming up on Monday. And then the final decision will be made at our monthly council meeting in April. Third Monday in April.
No, the first.
Good
second
Lord.
Tuesday with the same night as committee.
Okay.
First Tuesday, yeah.
Okay, I will clarify all this at the end so people aren't confused.
April 2nd.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go through those dates right at the end, so it's not so muddy for everyone. So, step 4, the zoning bylaw amendment is read a second time and declared as read at a second council meeting. Step 5, the official plan amendment is read to be adopted by council. The resolution will be either carried or defeated by vote of council. If the official plan amendment is adopted by council, the amendment is sent to the Minister of Housing, Land and Communities for signature, and the amendment becomes official. If the official plan amendment is defeated, the zoning bylaw amendment will be defeated as well, as the zoning amendment cannot contradict the official plan amendment. And step 6, the zoning bylaw amendment is read to be adopted by council. The resolution will be either carried or defeated by vote of council. If the zoning bylaw amendment is adopted by council, it is sent to the Minister of Housing, Land and Communities for signature, and the amendment becomes official. Steps 4 to 6 take place at council's second meeting. Please note that in accordance with section 5.20 of the city zoning bylaw, any person who is dissatisfied by a decision of council in respect of the administration of this bylaw may appeal council's decision within 21 days to the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission. So the current zone, low-density mixed residential, the purpose of this zone is to provide for low-density housing in the form of single-family, semi-detached, and duplex dwellings and other compatible uses. Permitted uses in the current R2 zone, subject to bylaw requirements, include single-family dwellings, duplex dwellings, assisted living, semi-detached dwellings, and accessory buildings. Discretionary uses in the R2 zone, subject to council approval, include medium childcare facility, social services agency, boarding house, or B&B. And conditional uses in the R2 zone, subject to a development officer approval, include home-based business, secondary suite, or vacation rental property. The proposed zone, service commercial C2, purpose of this zone is to provide for large and medium-sized commercial uses which need road frontage for ready vehicular access and advertising exposure. Permitted uses subject to bylaw requirements in the C2 zone, hospital and kennel, animal care facility, convenience and grocery store, private club, an automobile establishment, body shop, repair shop, sales, service station, washing establishment, funeral home, dining room, takeout and drive-through. Those are two separate items. Bakery, office-style industry, small and large retail store, bank/financial institution, liquor store, service center, building supply outlet, tourism establishment, motel/hotel, shopping center, bus terminal, accessory building, automobile storage facility, outdoor storage facility, storage area, self-storage, warehouse, business/professional and medical office, parking lot, brew pub, ferment on premises and microbrewery, commercial school, personal service shop, taxi station, small, medium, and large childcare facility, plant nursery, fitness center, dry cleaner outlet, printing, publishing establishment, video arcade, farmers/fishers market, or cannabis retail store. Residential permitted uses in the C2 zone, row house, townhouse, residential dwellings lawfully existing prior to 1999, social services agency, commercial/residential building, or ancillary residence. Institutional uses in the C2 zone include community center, entertainment facility, public library, museum and gallery, emergency services facility, place of worship, government office, or college university. Discretionary uses subject to council approval, tavern, bar, lounge, flea market, tourist home and inn, crematorium, accessory use to a funeral home or pool hall. Institutional discretionary uses include a utility facility. And finally, conditional uses in the C2 zone subject to a development officer approval. Residential uses include home-based business, B&B and vacation rental property, or secondary suite. Next, we would open the floor to comments and questions, and we'd first invite the applicant, Kevin Wiley, if there's anything that you'd like to present or say just leading up to this application, maybe why you're looking to rezone it, just for everyone's knowledge that might be watching or listening, would be beneficial to those, if you wouldn't mind just stepping up and, yeah.
I'm looking to rezone because, as most of people know, the traffic is unreal that we're getting right now. So we're trying to increase our parking, also the store. We're getting people driving from Charlottetown to shop at our store right now. So that's the biggest reason.
Okay. So basically, you're looking to move some parking around back.
Yeah, extend the parking down the side, around the back, and put another addition on the store as well. More retail, more storage, and it just fix the whole flow. Right now, it's not flowing properly. It's congested.
Okay. Well, I'll be one of many to say it's quite a spot, and it's obvious why. That place is fantastic. So,
Thanks.
Any questions from the public? From different households? Or any councillors wish to speak? Councillor McGee?
I just have one. Kevin, on the subject property, the picture up there, that bite that's out of there, is that, why is that lot not squared off?
I think there's future development for a subdivision
Subdivision?
down the road, I believe so.
So the property that's currently owned by this property here, this roundabout part is actually the
Part of
edge
a
of the road
cul-de-sac.
right of way. That's gonna make a turn there. So that's how our upper, I'll say, the sewage lift station,
Yeah.
there is a portion of the lift,
Easement through there?
yeah, there's an easement through this property, and then it comes down, it's supposed to go onto this proposed public right-of-way. So that's a part of that proposed public right-of-way.
Okay, so would there be access later on onto the subdivision?
We'd have to,
Okay. No, just because I knew that there was subdivision plans back there, so, okay. No, Kevin, I look forward to the improvements, and it's a great little store now, so
Thank you.
all the best.
Okay.
Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
You are very busy up there, which is, in my mind, is a good thing. You gotta be careful when I say this, but the congestion and all that is, I wish everybody that was in business in Summerside was having some of the same problems that you're having. It'd be good for all of us. My only question would be, and I'm not sure if you can answer it or what your plans are, but one of the things I do see that's a little bit, I shouldn't say, it doesn't bother me, but I wonder if there's not a better solution to it, and you may have already thought of it, but when the tractor trailer's back into your receiving door, there's hardly enough room for them, and that's part of the, I'm wondering if you have any intentions of moving that to the new part, and
I do.
okay, that was
That's
just,
part of the plan. So
Yeah.
the trucks will come in straight back and then back in
yeah,
in
they'll have
behind the
room
store.
and do it from the back
There'll be two
side.
receiving bays
Yeah.
level, because the land slopes, hopefully, that's
Yeah.
the plan.
Perfect, that's
Yeah.
all that's my biggest concern.
There's a lot of things we need to fix, like the garbage. We want to do it that it's from, inside, we throw it in a compactor so the smell and the garbage is not around the yard, and, hopefully get a curb system in so people stop running over. We can't even grow grass.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of things we need to do. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I mean, at first glance, it seems like a no-brainer. Obviously, we have to go through the process, but yeah, I hope nothing but the best, and,
Thank you.
and you do so much for the community too, and you allow a lot of people to, feed themselves where they can't sometimes otherwise be able to do so. And I just recently see so many people that are posting like all the deals at the butcher and comparing it to the big chains, and you're, wish you all the best, and you're doing a lot of good things for people, so.
Thank you.
But again, we do have to go through the process, so we have to consider everything, and we will do that. So if there's nothing else, I'll just go with the resolutions, and on we go. Resolution COS 24-020, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Glant, whereas an application was received from 101359 PEI Inc. for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 70896 from low-density mixed residential R2 zone to service commercial C2 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. Be it resolved that zoning amendment 0045 be hereby declared as read a first time. Zoning amendment 0045, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. The Council of the City of Summerside, under authority vested in it by Section 18 and Section 19 of the Planning Act, hereby enacts as follows. The zoning for a portion of PID number 70896, shown on Schedule B of the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, is designated as Service Commercial C2 zone, hereby excluding it from its former designation of Low-Density Mixed Residential R2 zone.
Thank you, Councillor. Resolution COS 24-020 is on the floor, moved by Councillor Doiron, seconded by Councillor Glant. Are there any further comments or questions from council? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. Councillor?
This is in Ward 2 also, by the way, so thanks for staying in Ward 2. Thanks for expanding into more of Ward 2. Resolution COS 24-021. But you do want to take over residential area, so that could be future voters that are being taken from me. Okay. Resolution COS 24-021, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDougall. Whereas an application was received from 101359 PEI Inc. for a zoning amendment for a portion of PID number 73684 from low-density mixed residential R2 zone to service commercial C2 zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 0045, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read a first time at this council meeting. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 0045, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby referred back to the Planning Board for review and recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Resolution COS 24-021, moved by Councillor Doiron, seconded by Councillor McDougall, is on the floor. Are there any comments or questions from council? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. And that is the end of our items and agenda. So with that,
I
do you want to?
sorry.
You look like you
Worship,
want to speak
I
something.
do. I just
Waving.
mentioned at the first that
Yes,
I just go
Councillor.
over the dates
Yes.
to clarify. So the planning board meeting where we will have this report presented to us will be March 18th at 6 o'clock. And then the council meeting where we will all vote on this will be the first Tuesday in April, so that's the 2nd. The meeting starts at 5:30? 5? We'll have it at 5, okay, so. Okay. We'll know closer what time. If it's a huge agenda, then it might be pushed a little earlier, but it'll be the first thing on that evening, so. Planning board report, March 18th at 6, and then final meeting, April 2nd, 5 o'clock probably, or 5:30. That's everything, your worship. Thanks for.
Thank you, Councillor. And now we will adjourn tonight's meeting. Have a good evening, everybody.